Next, here's the responsible party tab. So after you've entered in the patient, and this is updated from the training video that you just saw about the patient. I mean, we got Carrie Heffernan's picture in here. In other words, after you enter in the patient, whoever you type in the responsible party, the name, Doug Heffernan, he doesn't have to be a patient. You just need to type in the name. When you type in the name and you save this screen and you go to the responsible party tab, it just pulls in his name only. And as far as the address and other information, that's the patient. So let's say you have a rich uncle or aunt or whoever's going to be responsible for us sending the statements to. That's the name of the person we want here, along with their address, their date of birth, and social. Of course, we don't want it to be the patient, so if it says female, Carrie Heffernan, and her date of birth, then we want to make sure we change all this up at the top. So this top section is just for who's responsible, and it can be the same person. It could be Carrie, or in this case, it's her husband. So her husband's going to get all the statements at the same address, but in his name. And again, if it's a rich aunt or uncle, then change the name here and put a different address for them to get the statements. And then, of course, his phone number, we can get a hold of him if he's not making any payments. So pretty simplistic. Just the top section here is for the responsible party, whoever you want to get the statements. Has nothing to do with being a policy holder. That we'll cover on the insurance tab in just a minute. Next, this section right here is just if you want to make changes on this responsible party alone, because when you set up all your patients, they will all have a typical account type and how their statements are going to go out. But if you want to change it for one responsible party, in this case Doug, you can do it on an individual basis here. So first of all, the account type. 99% of the time all insurances will be typical account, and if you recall, your accounts, how you set them up was under the master files menu, down to patient billing, and then over to account types. And there you go over here, the 3 typical account, and you'll want to watch the training video on account types, so I'll close out. And one of the reasons why you may want to change this account type, let's say we sent Doug Heffernan to collections, so we could delete the account type, typical, and click on the ellipsis button. And I have an account type that's called no statement. I would double click on that and assign him no statement because I don't want to call or collect on him if I have a collection agency that I'm paying for to do the job. So I could just say no statement and then leave his account alone. But I'm going to change this back to typical account by double clicking on it. Next, the statement format. When you click on the drop down area, you get several choices, but the 2 most popular ones are McKesson Electronic and plain paper. In other words, if you select plain paper, then it's going to drop this responsible party statement to paper in office there, so you can print it, stuff it, and stamp it, and mail it off. Your McKesson Electronic means that you'll electronically submit the statement to the McKesson Clearinghouse, and then I think it's for 49 cents right now, but of course the price of stamps may be going up, but about 50 cents per statement, and that includes McKesson using their printers, stuffing and stamping it, and mailing it off for you. And also it includes the price of the stamp. The default here, I usually don't like going off of it because I don't know about you, but I don't recall what my system defaults were. And if you remember, and I'll change it back to default, it's under Utilities to System Defaults. And then go over here and click under the categories on patient billing. And you'll see there's my default statement format, which is plain paper. So if I can remember what my default format, which is plain paper here, and I close back out, and I come here and it says default, to me it's a lot easier since I'm here anyways just to say, well, click on the drop down arrow on plain paper. And of course it'll warn you saying, well, set it to default because generally that's what everybody's set up on. I'm going to click OK and change it to plain paper. Anyways, that's up to you. You can leave it at system default as long as you remember what your system defaults are for statements. Now this is optional here if you want to hold patient statements either indefinitely or until a certain date, and then obviously check your date down below here. And then after you select it, it's probably a good idea to enter in the hold reason so you'll be reminded, and everybody else who looks at this account here will see why you're holding the statements. And of course you can click on the ellipsis button. If you don't have any in here, just go ahead and click on Add New. And then type in whatever code you want and the description to why these statements are being held, like maybe a bad debt review. We need to call the patient before we send them any statements in any case. Set it back to not being held. And then if you recalled in your account types, under the master files menu to patient billing that we just looked at up here, that you can set the cycle dates in there for everybody, and it will be listed here, so everybody's at 25 days. But if you want to change it just for Doug Heffernan here, you can come in here and say, well, every 10 days or every 5 days. In any case, again, you can set it by individual in this section here. Also in your account types, if you're assessing finance charges from everybody, then leave it checked, but if you leave it unchecked, then the responsible party will not be included when processing the finance charges, so none will be added to Doug Heffernan if I uncheck it. Basically, when you're done, just be sure to save your work and then move on to the insurance tab as far as keeping with the flow of the training here. A few extra things I want to show you real quick is over to the right hand side you'll have the payments button. Anytime you get a statement back in the mail and you want to make a payment on the responsible party's account, what you want to do is come up here and then you can click clear and then click on the ellipsis button. And on the statement that they send back with their check, you can select the account here and type in the account number and then do a search and pull out the responsible party. That may be a little bit easier, especially if you have Doug Heffernan, who's a responsible party for maybe a couple of others, like maybe he has 5 children as well. I'll click cancel here and then I'll refresh the screen to bring Doug Heffernan back up. Basically just clicking off on the patient tab and going back to the responsible party tab, it refreshes it. Then once I pull out the correct responsible party, then I can come down here and click on the payments button. Now you want to watch the training videos on entering payments, but you'll get the gist of it when you click on the button here. Any outstanding balance they have, PPs for patient payment, the payment amount, if he sent in a check for $50 or did credit card. If it was a check, enter in the check number, deposit date, and then also type in a note. This note will be for you when you post the payment. If you check the box here, it'll be not only a note for you about the payment on the patient history tab down below here, which we haven't covered yet. You will cover it when we're posting charges and payments. And also it will go out on the statement. And then once you're done, click OK. And then what it will do is it will take the payment and it will be shown as it's posted over on the history tab. We'll cover that when we're posting payments as well. The second button is the family history. So if Doug Heffernan is responsible for a few other patients in your system here, then click on the family history button. It's just like the history tab here, only it'll show it for all the patients that Doug Heffernan's responsible paying out on their accounts for. And so here's the family history here, and you can see here's the patient Kerry he's responsible for. Here's Jeff Bradley, maybe it's one of his children or something. In any case, it lists all the patients he's responsible for paying out on. And we'll cover this more in the payment training videos. And like I said, it's the same screen as the history tab down below here. And the history tab is just for this patient, where when you click on this button, it's for the whole family. Okay. And then finally the collections button, which is you want to watch the collection training video, but if you want to go to the collections module on this responsible party here, then you can go ahead and click the button. Otherwise, let's go to the next tab, insurance.